Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Congressman Kiley just rips Jasmine Crockett to shreds. It got so bad that Jim Jordan had to come in and shut down the nonsense. Let's dive in.
Let me be clear. I am not saying that the criminal justice system or any other justice system has ever always been perfect. I am not trying to say that. But we do have a system, and that system is supposed to be based upon the Constitution. And right now, like literally due process comes from the Constitution. This should be the highest protections that one can have in the land. And right now, it seems like y'all don't care about the Constitution, unless it's the Second Amendment, and that's misinterpreted as well, okay? There's other amendments to the Constitution, and we don't get to just change it because our fearless leader says that he doesn't like certain parts of the Constitution. We have a process, again, to get amendments, right? There are people that don't like the fact that there was an amendment so that women could vote. And guess what? We ended up with something like the SAVE Act because we don't want women to vote. Like, literally, but I'm getting off track, so I'm gonna go back.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to briefly address a point brought up by the representative from Texas, Ms. Crockett, who accused me and my colleagues over here of ignoring the Constitution. And if that were true, that'd be a very serious matter. So I did want to just inquire as to what exactly the accusation is. So I'll happily yield to the gentlewoman from Texas if she'd like to respond. Do you believe that someone who has snuck into our country, entered the United States illegally, that the due process requirements for that individual are the same as they are for a U.S. citizen?
I thought the question was for me, but it seems like the lawyers on this side or just my entire team knows the answer.
Mr. Chairman?
Per the Constitution, yes, if you are on our soil, you are guaranteed due process. And the fact that there's even a question is why we are struggling right now. In addition to, an additional issue that I have is the executive order that was signed by the president that seemed to get rid of birthright citizenship, which also is laid out in the Constitution, which is why even the most conservative judges have ruled against. There is no one that has ruled that that was okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So
thank you.
That's simply untrue. The Supreme Court has made it very clear that due process is a context-dependent inquiry. And someone who is here illegally in this country facing deportation, the requirements of due process are specific to that context. And the problem is that during the last administration, we had 10 million people who came into this country without the least amount of vetting. And it's created an enormous backlog in our immigration courts. Now, what we actually did in a measure that we passed in this committee a couple weeks ago, which I believe every member of the Democrat minority opposed, is we sought to provide the resources for our immigration courts to operate in a fair and efficacious manner by increasing the number of immigration judges, of lawyers, of courtrooms, in order to remove this backlog of millions of cases that now exist. So I think it's highly problematic to hear arguments about due process from the side that is actually voting against providing the resources that are needed for due process. But I think it's even more problematic to make the argument that an illegal immigrant, perhaps with a criminal record facing deportation, should receive the full measure of due process that an American citizen does. That simply is not what the Constitution requires. But I would just say, perhaps be careful with throwing out accusations or ignoring the Constitution, without carefully considering those statements, because the demands of due process is not just something that is the same in every context. It's
Mr.
very
Chairman,
much
I have a
context. So I yield back.
unanimous consent request.
Gentlelady is recognized for unanimous consent.
I'd like to submit for the record the Constitution of the United States Fifth Amendment explained so that the gentleman can see exactly what is in the Constitution where it says no person No person shall be deprived of due process.
I would just point out the Supreme Court, as the gentleman from California has said, has firmly, I'm quoting the Rehnquist from Justice Rehnquist, has firmly and repeatedly endorsed the proposition that Congress may make rules as to aliens that would be unacceptable if applied to citizens.
But
There
currently
is
the
process
Constitution
due, but
says-
it's not the same process due American citizens.
Mr.
Without
Chairman, it just
objection-
says no
without
person,
objection, the
and
Fifth
so-
Amendment will be entered in front of the Judiciary
Thank you
Committee's
so
record.
much. I just
even
wanted to
though-
make sure everybody knows what the
even
Fifth
though
Amendment says.
we will take
Maybe
it.
we could introduce the 14th Amendment too, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's fine too. Well, you can introduce the whole Constitution. God bless you.
The Democrat Party does not understand what the Constitution actually does. They haven't understood it for a long, long time, arguably ever since Woodrow Wilson got in power over 100 years ago. Seriously, folks, we don't understand how bad Woodrow Wilson really was. And that progressive ideology that he enshrined was essentially this idea, that unelected bureaucrats should run the government. Educated people that are of higher standing need to run things in order to benefit you. We're doing it for your good. That's the ideology. That is the ideology that has driven the Democrat Party for over 100 years. And it just keeps getting worse. Now we've got full-blown socialists. People, quite literally, Jay Paul was a part of something called the Socialist Squad. You haven't heard much from them recently because a whole bunch of them got voted out in their own primaries because Americans keep on rejecting the insanity that is Marxist leftist nonsense that's attempting to reshape the world in an image that will never come to be and will ultimately make everything worse. That's what the Democrat Party has currently stood for. They can't pivot back to reality because if they do, it's an admission that they have gotten something hilariously wrong. And so when Jayapal is out here talking about reintroducing the Fifth Amendment for the record, I'm sorry, ma'am, but do you understand what due process is? Because this is what due process is. This is something that the Democrats have been screaming about over and over and over again. And how dare the Trump administration skip a step in due process? That's what happened to Abreu Garcia. A step got skipped because the Trump administration effectively made the correct decision to deport him. But the problem lay within the rule of the law that he wasn't supposed to be returned to El Salvador yet. I think that's actually more of a congressional problem, because after all, Congress is supposed to write the laws. So the due process for illegal migrants, if you are here illegally, the process is quite literally, checks notes here, you deport them. That's the due process. That is quite literally the process, and the Democrats are screaming this phrase from the rooftops, not only not understanding what it actually means, but they don't want to go down that road that ultimately admits that they have been complicit in the fact that there has been, for lack of a better word here, an invasion at our southern border. Drug cartels that are based out of Mexico have been running rampant. They have been trafficking human beings. That's evil. And the leftists that I used to know and used to understand pretty well, they would have abhorred this evil because it is a theft of wage. It is basically wage slavery. I'm using their own words because that's what they would have described this 20 years ago. Where are their voices? What's happened? The Democrat Party and their supporters are complicit in allowing the United States to solely be overrun by illegal migrants. It got so bad that we elected Donald Trump for a second time. This is an ultimate absurdity, by the way, because 20 years ago, if you said Donald Trump would have been president not once, but on two separate terms, we would have laughed at you. Well, folks, this has actually happened in history before. Grover Cleveland was kicked out of office because he was actually a little radical at the time. He was trying to clean up a whole lot of messes, and the American political system shut him down with the Electoral College. But the American people realized he was doing a good job, and then when Benjamin Harrison, the grandson of William Henry Harrison, turns out he didn't do a great job as president. As a matter of fact, if you were to look at a bottom 10 list of American presidents, both Harrisons are probably on that list. And so Grover Cleveland got brought back in to fix the problems because it wasn't fully fixed the first time around. This is American history quite literally repeating itself, and we're out here arguing over the due process of illegal migrants. I'm sorry, folks, they're not just barking up the wrong tree, they don't even understand what they're barking about. And Jasmine Crockett accidentally falls into the trap here. Congressman Kiley does a great job framing this. But the real clown of this show is Jayapal. Any member of the Socialist Squad is naturally also a part of the clown car show that is going on with American politics. And Jim Jordan is doing his best not to just laugh at these people. Now, I need to end with this. I'm not an originalist. As much as I love Anthony Scalia, as much as I love our Constitution, I don't like the idea of interpreting intent of the law. When the 14th Amendment was passed, the point of it was to ensure that across the United States, including the southern states that had seceded and were forcefully brought back into the Union, that they would recognize the rights of Black Americans and the recently freed slaves. It was written quite literally in a way to ensure their rights. It's now being used as a bludgeon against people that are trying to ensure that our country is safe, secure, and that we're having proper immigration policies. It is used as a bludgeon and a cudgel against the very people that want to keep us safe in the first place. So yeah, I'm not an originalist because the way laws are interpreted needs to be by the letter of the law. So I think a constitutional convention is necessary to solve this issue and to make sure that the Democrats never use this again against Republicans, against common sense people, against the American people. We might need to start asking our the ladies and gentlemen that we elect, we might need to start asking them if we need to update the Constitution. I believe a constitutional convention is eventually necessary. Even Thomas Jefferson thought that. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, because we know for sure that the Democrats will abuse the Constitution whenever they can, and particularly when it comes from people like Jasmine Crockett or Representative Jayapal. Socialist Squad is really just the clown car squad. And I'll stand by that. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.